Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Spectra. I am Simran Kodesia, and I lead international communications for DoorDash. I'm your moderator today, and we will have a very interesting conversation with a bunch of amazing panelists where we're going to talk about what firms plan to do in 2022 and beyond. May I now request our distinguished panelists to introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Minal.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with esteemed panelists as well as glad to meet you, Simran. Just to introduce myself, I'm co-founder and director of Ideosphere. We're basically about a decade old now. Our model of business has been insights-based communication, and we cater to largely B2B tech clients. It's a pleasure to be on this panel because we've always called ourselves and boasted ourselves to be emerging boutique agency, and we continue to do so until we become a large boutique agency too. So glad to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Minal. Over to you, Sunanda.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Simran. Thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure. And I look forward to some really engrossing and interesting conversations today. I am the founder and CEO of Seraphim Communications. It's a Delhi-based boutique strategic communications consultancy. Similar to what Minal has said, we are, doing communications for some international organizations, and we are a niche communications consultancy in that sphere. And I'm really looking forward to some really, really good conversations today.
Thank you, Sunanda. We're very happy to have you here. Praveen, may I now request you to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Simran. Happy to connect and meet up with the wonderful people here. I run a public relations communications agency. It's called Peregrine PR. We are about a decade old. As a policy, we work with all sectors. We don't specialize in any one specific sector. And we have a mix of clients from corporates to IT to healthcare to the all range of clients whom we work with. Besides, I also run a event management company called White Coffee, and we do 2 film festivals. One is for children called Kids Cinema, which is second edition is scheduled this year in November, and another film festival that we recently concluded is called Culture Cinema, which aims to celebrate the world cultures through cinema. And that's the brief introduction about myself. And happy to again be with all of you. Looking forward to great conversation today.
Thank you so much, Praveen. Looking forward to get your expertise on some of the topics we're about to discuss today. Pranshu, may I now request you to introduce yourself, please?
Good evening. My name is Pranshu Sikka. I am the CEO at the Pivotals, and we are a stakeholder engagement and a brand management and crisis management firm based out of Delhi, working with a diaspora of clients across various genres and sectors. And we're looking forward to a very fruitful and engaging conversation today.
Thank you so much, Pranshu. Thank you so much, all the panelists, for being here today. And we're going to start our conversation by how role of communications has evolved across every different organization. In the last 1.5, 2 years, we've seen the communications, the PR team actually supporting the business. We've helped businesses and companies sustain the pandemic. We're no longer a support function to marketing and business, but we build trust by association. We help move the bottom lines up, and we actually do a lot of work as front runners with the business. So the role has definitely changed, and most definitely that brings us a lot of change in the way PR agencies are expected to work, and who better than all of you to tell us what's in store. My first question is for all the panelists, and it is obviously, how have you seen your clients' need evolve in the last 2 years? And we're going to start with you, Pranshu.
Well, I would say we are very blessed to be in a time of democratization of distribution of telephony and mobile internet, because it has changed the complete paradigm of the industry. Like you very rightly said, and like we like to call ourselves, we are no more PR or branding agencies, but we have become stakeholder engagement agencies, because there is so much being consumed and the game has become so dynamic and ever emerging that a lot of companies now depend on us as partners to handhold them through various processes. So unlike a few years ago when it was largely about connecting with media and branding them in a certain way, now with the mobile telephony becoming open, influencers emerging as a key challenger of the game, as well as so much being consumed not only over the weekdays but over the weekends also, we have become critical advisors to all important functions of a company, which wasn't the case earlier. So earlier we were typically in touch with a corporate communication team or at best a marketing team, but now the companies are leaning on us for legal advice because they don't know how the situation is going to evolve, and it is going to get out of hand so quickly that nobody would know. So I would say that what we have seen is that we have become true stakeholder engagement agencies rather than just pure play PR or branding agencies. And secondly, that they lean on us for multidisciplinary advice, which wasn't the case a few years ago.
Absolutely, Pranshu. Very well said. And I do think that, stakeholder management continues to be one of the key pillars of PR. At least that's what I've learned in my career of 15 years. Sunanda, I'd like to bring you in here and, get your inputs on this.
I totally resonate with what Pranshu has said. When we are advising our clients, of course, a lot has been said about digitization, data coming in, and how PR agencies or let's say consultants are reinventing themselves, especially in the last 1.5 years, where we have become strong advisors, not just PR agents. That's the major difference. Additionally, what I have really noticed in the past 1.5, 2 years is that we are becoming more focused region wise, yet there is nothing like regional news anymore. Communications have become global. Clients expect communications teams to have regional expertise but with global perspectives and understanding of their home base country. Within a few minutes, news is spilling over back and forth between geographies. So there is a lot more understanding about the PR and communication space. The set of stakeholders have become extremely diverse, and that is where people are looking for specialized PR consultancies to give them handhold them and give them advice.
Absolutely. Praveen, could we bring you in here to share your inputs on what Sunanda and Pranshu have mentioned?
Yes. Interestingly, both of them have pointed out the key happenings of this industry. And what I would like to add to what they have said is that the changes happen on two fronts, according to me. Mostly, one is the engagement of the client side has drastically changed. Earlier one would see a lot of interaction with the Copcom head or a marketing head, and they would you may not have a very senior person, a CFO or CEO, giving more of their time to this function. They would give, of course, but still a lot of work would probably be taken by undertaken by the communications function. But now with online space coming in our lives, and a sort of access which is become much easily available, I have seen that there's been much more engagement from the senior management, when a CEO or a CFO or a lot of other functions can collaborate from different points in time and different places, whichever way. But there's a increased kind of engagement which I have observed. That's one. Second thing, while the pandemic has created a situation that we all had to work from home, clients have expected more now in this period. Their expectations are a little increased, and they sort of have become more demanding as compared to what they were earlier. That's my take on what I have seen happening in the last 1.5 years time. Over to you.
Absolutely. From demanding clients to becoming thought partners for business. Minal, what's your take here?
As I said, very aptly pointed out by the panelist in terms of the business dynamics shifting. One area which I feel makes an important area to speak about is there are two types of organizations and enterprises, at least we have, come in experience with. One is who's looking for very measurable ROI, and the second is looking for value ROI. Now, they are very distinct type of customers looking for very distinct type of outputs and outcomes. So that is something which is very interesting. And I think agencies need to understand that we need to customize to whosoever we are really, have communicating with. What are they really looking for? Because their need and ask has become very specific. It's not anymore ambiguous brand awareness as it used to be. So that's one change which I have seen. Second is the, not only from a customer's point of view, I think need for good talent or multifaceted talent has become quite a need in the hour. What we are talking about is someone not necessarily just knowing media relations. We are looking at people who are understanding, good amount of understanding of every aspect of communication, and that's becoming quite an important ask, especially from strategic companies such as ours. And hence that has actually kind of disrupted the market quite a bit, at least for the communication industry. And how we solve that is going to be something very interesting to see. And actually, how that is going to transition is going to be very interesting to see.
Absolutely. Thank you, Minal. And that very aptly brings me to my next question for the panel, which is that, as business owners and leaders, what has been the biggest shift for you in how you run your organization and how you manage your teams? Remote working is probably here to stay. Any learnings that you have as leaders that you can share with us? And this time we could start with Sunanda.
Sorry. There are two aspects to your question, Simran. One is from the business part of it. I'd like to just, brush past that. In terms of Seraphim's own experience, we are on paper, we are a 3-year-old firm. We are a small boutique communications firm. Albeit the fact that these are unprecedented times where we have managed to kind of keep a very diverse portfolio of clients, and that has actually helped us sustain the business model. So PR has become a very diverse sort of a sector, as we have spoken before, and it's not just about they are not being defined by the traditional comms activities, brand awareness programs or within the industry, but also other several aspects of our work that have to be included. For example, our clients are looking to establish partnerships with Indian firms, so they are looking to us for advice, for diligence activities. Advocacy and policy space is something also that has become much wider than what we had experienced before, and we are expected to bring in that value, which brings us to a very, very it does put a little bit of pressure on us, but at the same time, it forces us to actually become that disruptive, as Minal had also pointed out, in our own space and create that space for ourselves. Indian establishments are also becoming very well versed with international clients and practices. Hence, the quality of consultancy has undergone a huge tectonic shift. And clients are they are expecting us to have world-class advisory and not just be satisfied with the tactical PR space. In terms of managing teams within our organizations, I think I can talk about myself. Non-PR backgrounds have become also very, very essential. Again, I totally resonate with what Minal has said. It's about, media relations is just one aspect, but consultants are supposed to know about competition, about policy space. They are supposed to keep on and on and on. Research has become a very, very essential part of our work. And I must say how we have changed, or I've always had the policy of exploring hiring talent from other spaces beyond the conventional media relations space and PR space. So I've always had the most amazing talent in the company also in which I was working before. We have had fashion designers, we have doctors, we have had engineers, but all with a passion to communicate. And these tools that we are working with right now are are an important part, but at the same time the right attitude needs to be nurtured.
100%. Pranshu, can we bring you in here to share your experience at the Pivotals with regards to how you're running your agency, how it's sort of changing for you?
Sure, I'll take a leaf out of everyone's book. So there's a point which Praveen made about demanding clients. So one thing which we have done in the last year and a half, and we were surprised that some of our very young colleagues were actually going through depression because the clients became so demanding. Because it is their own internal compulsion to keep up the pace of what is being put out there. So one thing we have done is to put a line to how demanding a client can be, so to say, and not let work from home be a 24-hour working job. That is one difference we have brought to the work culture. The other point Minal made about evolving ambiguous demands, it has become so. So the challenge now here is that the demands themselves are evolving. The barometer of demands is evolving at such a pace that it becomes difficult to keep up pace with it. So just to give you an example, maybe a year ago, a client was happy getting the number of page views. Now he's asking for time spent on those page views. Just an example. So it is evolving at such a pace that even to benchmark those ambiguous demands is becoming challenging, and therefore we are beginning to put some measures in place that you cannot retrospectively ask for what you had asked for earlier. So if page views is what you had asked for, too bad for you that the market has evolved at a pace that it doesn't justify your criteria now. And the point Sunanda made, very interesting point about having versatile talent. One input we have in terms of internal engagement is that in the last year and a half, there is a very thin line between advocacy being on the right side of it or the wrong side of it. Or for example, social media, whether it is your personal space or your professional space. And unfortunately, with a lot more polarization in the open debate space, we have been forced to put some etiquettes for our employees and colleagues in place that they will not be able to do certain things anymore, whether they consider it personal or professional. We cannot keep having that conversation beyond a point. So those three changes is what we've implemented for our colleagues in the past year and a half.
Thank you. Thanks, Pranshu. I think it is really, really insightful for us to know, and also great to hear that you're also sort of trying to manage your teams so well and making sure that their mental health is not so impacted with ever increasing and demanding clients. Minal, can I bring you in here to share your experience?
It's a very interesting phase, I would believe, because there are three things which we realized. One is that you have to accept that you cannot do anything and everything, because communication as an industry has been known to say yes and then figure it out internally. So that was a very distinct understanding we accepted, and hence we built a partner ecosystem who specializes in those specific execution arenas. Second is that the process which we have, I am a big process person coming from Genesis pedigree. So I realized that that's disrupted too, because now it is not anymore about, having strict, those very constricted ways of functioning, but everybody is going to have their own personal process, and how you kind of make that integrated into the foundation or the outcome of the customer, that has become more important. And the third element is the aspect of accepting and embracing freelancers and consultant community. There are many out there and they're doing some fabulous work, and they have become your new set of colleagues. So that has become a quite a great way, because the customer is looking for, and as everyone is saying, they're looking for they're demanding because they're looking for domain expertise. And it is just inevitable that everybody is going to be, on top of their game for every industry, right? So hence, embrace decentralizing your system has become a norm, is what at least we have started to accept it and actually put in place.
100%. Absolutely. Praveen, should we bring you in now to share your experience about this?
Yes, very interesting points made by all of you. I want to add one or two more things to what you said. One of my experience is that this online environment and hybrid working has actually created a level playing field for employees with different capacities. Now you have individuals who have their own strengths. So some of the people will be good at doing something, and some may not be as good as others. Now, what has happened is because of this working from home and working at your own speed and your time frames, a little bit of freedom in terms of space, not having a very competitive environment around you has shown some kind of positive side to a lot of people. A lot of people who would probably not be delivering as well as in a normal environment are actually delivering extremely well, and they have sort of somehow been able to cover up for their shortcomings, maybe because they became more responsible, or maybe they became more accountable themselves. And I think that's one big change that I have noticed. Secondly, about more freelancers coming in, yes, freelancing is going to be even more prominent in the coming years. There will be many more freelancers, because the way our work environment is shifting. It allows one to have freedom of things for themselves, and allows you to perform probably better. So I think we'll have more freelancers coming in, and it's good to engage them because you have flexibility, and you also know that certain capabilities that they can bring in, which you may not be able to have with your own regular bunch of people. And it also allows your regular bunch of people to focus more on a lot of planning and other things, and freelancers can certainly aid your output overall that you have to show to your client. So I think that's what I would say. Over to you, Simran.
Thank you. Thanks, Praveen. I think that's very insightful. And you bring in a very important point here, where you talk about working with consultants, freelancers, and and Minal touched upon that this a little bit, that an era of generalists. You can't have specialists which cater to industry wise clients. To that, Minal, I have my next question for you. That as comms is becoming so integrated with digital and social, are you looking at hiring more people who come in with those capabilities, which could actually cater to everything that your client now expects out of a PR agency?
So it would be wonderful to have those people in the system, but unfortunately, and it's no harm of any person, but the conditioning is different. So yeah, it's difficult to find the right talent who can hone skills of every level of communication. uh, it's been quite a task. We've gone through our own journey of identifying those sort of people. But yes, it is. Why I say that? Because communication has become at the helm of everything now. And now as we say it, consumer is the king. Communication in that sense has kind of become, it's taking an overarching space. Now, how do you communicate at every level, every tool, every medium, and how do you engage with that narrative is a skill. And it's a skill which comes with time, it comes with experience, it comes with a lot of content understanding. So that is, it's going to take some time because it's in a transitional phase, but I hope I can get those stars and sparks of people who can come to Ideosphere and actually help us with that, because right now it's largely a very collaborated affair rather than someone who could take ownership on that. So yeah,
Absolutely, and we wish you all the very best for finding the right talent for your agency, Meenal. That actually brings me to my next question, which is for Sunanda. As client needs are evolving, as metrics are evolving, and the milestones are changing. Sunanda, how do you think firms can come up with a better metric to calculate ROI and the value you bring to your clients? Any thoughts there?
You've given me the most difficult question, but let me try. I mean, see, of course, PR as a space, communications as a space is something so intangible. It's all a matter of perception. That's why it's public relations, and there were times that we tried to kind of change that narrative. The whole idea of exchange of how to bring the ROIs into place. This was done a couple of years ago with the Barcelona principles, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. In fact, when I formed Seraphim, I have written it as one of our mission statements that we do conform to the Barcelona principles. However, with the changing scenario, with the demands and the challenges that are coming with clients, they have their, I'm not saying, they are not right in their expectations. We have spoken about how it is important for clients also to measure that. There is no other way. Otherwise, we have to have some sort of clarity while defining, at the start of contracts. We have to manage expectations. We have to have everything written down, whether it's tangible or not. It's all about perception. Now, we also feel that the international community, as far as our work is concerned, has to come up with certain standardizations as well. I really advocate for bringing in certain measures at the during the for the we have to take the talks forward, what we started with the Barcelona principles, not to conform to just AVEs, having more measurable ideas, engagement rates, whether we are engaging with traditional PR comms. AVEs are out. AVEs are quality over quantity. That's the most important aspect. People are not engaging in marketing budgets anymore. They have shrunk a lot. So when people are moving away from ads, there is that need to have more sustainable communications. Everything has to have a sustainability factor to it. So does also the PR industry. Now, how do we remain relevant in this kind of expectations of the client, where hard work and 24/7 consultancy is expected over geographies? That is something that we need to also set in space. Also, we need, when we're going for pitches, clients cannot also expect, sorry, I'm a little cynical about it, but if they come and say, give us a communication strategy for one whole year, come on, that is something that even we as a community need to stand together for this and say that, look, this is something that we do not, you cannot expect just because it's a tender process. So there are certain things that we need to have in order to show them return of investment as well. So it's a two-way process. It will take time. For the time being, yes, it's all about sustainability. It's about keeping the business growing. It's about expanding the diversity of our client management.
Very well said, Sunanda. I do agree. Measurability in PR is always a tough one, and you handle that very well. That actually brings me to my next question, which is for Pranshu, which actually links back to what Sunanda just mentioned as well. How, managing some of these expectations also comes in with managing your stakeholders well, right? Setting the right expectation, letting them know the role of PR teams and what we can do and what we can deliver for them. So Pranshu, what's your approach in telling your clients, and managing some of those stakeholders?
Just on a lighter note, the point Minal was making earlier, I read this very interesting advertisement yesterday which said, looking for a PR communication specialist with excellent media relationships, who has practical knowledge of SEO and is capable of handling events. So fortunately or unfortunately, the clients expect us to be rolled into some kind of a magic bag of everything, which is not the case. So in terms of being able to align stakeholder expectation, one, the point Sunanda was making, that we have to keep it realistic right at the time of pitch. We are budding as an agency, so all of us understand there are sometimes these revenue pressures that make us do unrealistic things and give unrealistic commitments. But setting the agenda right at the beginning of a relationship is very critical to keeping their expectations realistic. Secondly, I think one good development that has happened is that one of the panelists made this point earlier, that now when you walk into a boardroom, the communication specialist is not the last person who's looked at when he enters. In fact, the CEO would like to hear from you, because he understands that because of your exposure to so many stakeholders, you know a bit of lot of things. You may not be a subject matter expert, and therefore I think letting all internal stakeholders know that we know a bit of everything. So, there is a point to which you can bluff us, or that you can put the burden of your own expectations on me as an agency. It's very critical to be put out there. Having said that, I would also say that the market has also matured, which is a natural process. So till about half a decade ago, a CEO would expect you to deliver certain things at a certain price point, which really didn't exist. Sometimes agency would just say yes for the sake of revenue pressure, like I'm saying. But now CEOs have also, or the leaders, after working with multiple stakeholder engagement partners, have realized that there is a line to be drawn in terms of practical deliverables, number one. And secondly, fortunately, on the other side of that line, because the area of gray has merged very quickly, they are themselves very scared to make their partner cross the line. So in terms of letting them know that I am not the only one who's crossing the line, you're crossing that line with me, sometimes helps set realistic expectations.
For sure, Pranshu. I completely agree with you. The lines are blurring, and that actually, brings me to Praveen and my last question for the panel before we move into audience questions. Praveen, 2022 and beyond, do you think that PR agencies will have to hire either consultants, freelancers, to build social and digital capabilities along with PR mandates?
Good question. I think they're already doing it right now as we talk. Um, Building digital capabilities within agency, either by hiring external specialists or even empowering your own people or increasing their, training them and getting them to be exposed to the social media in a professional manner. That's something, it is a need of the hour. Just a simple thing today, you will see a news coming on Twitter first, and then after 2 hours you will see it on the news platform. That's been fact, at least my observation. So if I want to look for news, I look at Twitter first, and then I go and visit some website. Now same thing it applies for the corporate and the clients, and news has a very strong impact. If it's a crisis, then the impact can be really hazardous, or if there any other important news is there which comes faster, you need to be in line with that. Also, you need to respond to any kind of news which is there, if it is impacting you in some manner, positive or negative, whatever, to leverage the effect of social media. So yes, it is important. I think all agency, most of the agencies are doing it already. Those who are not, they will be doing it, I believe. Having a capability of digital is crucial. Also, gradually, as you go in the future, maybe 5 years hence, 10 years hence, we will see reduction in the traditional print, output. Even if we say that India is still time to go, because of the large geography and the large number of people who don't have, the kind of access to newspapers or whatever I'm saying. Things are going to change. There will be much more in digital. So yes, capabilities of digital have to be definitely developed and enhanced, and that's what I would say.
You're
What is it?
absolutely right. I think, the way we consume news is changing, which is why, PR has become so integrated with social platforms and with digital, because that's how people like you and I actually go and consume what's happening latest in our country and globally. It's now time for us to take in some audience questions, and we have our very first one from Nidhi Verma. Nidhi writes, now the term new normal is being used a lot. What is the new normal in PR? Minal, do you want to take that?
I think new normal is basically thinking decentralized. That is new normal, because I believe the more we are embracing people working from anywhere, to the effect customers expecting day to day performance rather than month to a year performance, to the level of learning on and skilling ourselves on an every capability perspective, it is becoming extremely important that we embrace that uncertainty, or decentralized way of thinking is going to become the foundation of how we work, especially the service industry. And the more we embrace that, it allows, it's like a Medici effect, right? You tend to kind of connect dots from different experiences and cultures, and that's what is going to happen with our industry. And I think that's new normal, and not necessarily virtual way of working is new normal.
Absolutely right, Meenal. In fact, the way all of us have sort of embraced the new normal is, it makes you feel that, going to office 5 days a week might now might be a difficult one now, as the hybrid situation continues to be here, at least for the near future. That actually brings me to the second question that we have from an audience, Shifta Alim. She writes, in the last 18 months, have you seen an era of innovation on the client side? Should we bring this to you, Pranshu? Any innovation that you've seen from your client side? Do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I think they've become more innovative in telling the agencies to become more innovative. But in terms of, one difference we've seen is that they have, there's this whole generation of new age businesses, whether it is fantasy gaming or it is e-sporting, or other such tech-driven platforms, which we also as seasoned or experienced partners sometimes find it tricky to build a communication strategy for these new age clients, because they are so technology savvy, and we are still coping up with what the audience is consuming out there. So that is one. In terms of the previous point which Minal was making, I'll just like to add one bit, is that one thing we have to be very mindful of, that while the conversation is hinging and skewing a lot towards social media, let us not forget that traditional media, I don't know in what way, none of us has an answer right now, it is going to emerge as a mainstay of our business. So what I tell a lot of my colleagues is, just because you have X number of followers on Twitter doesn't mean you don't go for your media rounds, because right now the sheer volume with which internet is coming at us, it seems like, traditional media is it's going to be oblivious, and it's not we can rule it out of the equation. That is not going to happen. So one thing we definitely need to be mindful of is that new normal will have elements of traditional practices that we have been following for many years. And I think,
100%.
Sunanda, would you have a point to make here?
Well, I have an.
Sure.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Sunanda, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted, human interaction is not going anywhere. Whether you term it as traditional media, look, I mean, we are. There's a very interesting debate that's happening around the world about the space of risk management, which is a very nascent space here in India. Now, we call ourselves, and I would not be unabashedly, I would say we are the reputational risk managers for every kind of business that's there, whether you call it e-commerce or NGOs or any kind of space. Like, just to give you an example, you have a Wikipedia article in which you have something negative written about yourself. Now, how do you change it? Or even now, if you say a blue tick verified Twitter handle requires a Wikipedia article, sorry. Now, that is not going to change. Wikimedia or Wikipedia is still going to rely on the traditional credible news sources for any kind of, whether you're talking about print news or news per se. Credibility will come from traditional media sources. We cannot quote a Twitter or a tweet in order to give some sort of credibility to a Wikipedia article, for instance. That is not going anywhere. This is what I mean by, yes, the new normal is there, but it is highly the fundamental of communication space remains. Digital will be there. We have to reinvent, but these are all tools. These are tools. These are upskills that we need to learn. This is the way it has been for centuries. We have to reinvent ourselves, probably a little faster or accelerated. Yet, at the same time, human interaction, for me, I don't think that's going to ever be replaced by AI or data.
100%. I'm a firm believer of how technology can be used to connect people, but I think that people to people connection will remain the mainstay of communications. That actually brings us to our last question from the audience, which is, do you think this downturn is a great time to grow? Well, that's definitely a reflective one. And if yes, then how? I think, Praveen, will keep this one for you.
Sure. That's a very good question, and I personally believe that every crisis that comes, it comes to you with an opportunity. You have to be able to see it. In fact, in the last 1.5 years' time, most of the agencies, people from our background, they have looked at changing their business or adapting their business or adding some new things in their business to do something in a very unique fashion, something new. Uh, our own experience has been like this. We while on one hand we had never thought of organizing some large scale events, we could do it this time because online gave us that opportunity for us to bring really significant people from across the globe put together, and that's exactly what has been with most of our businesses. All of us have seen this and experienced this, that online, as today you can have a seminar and you can call a professor from Harvard and he's able to come and speak and talk to you. You can do it for your employees, you can do it for your staff, you can do it with various opportunities, and it's manageable. It's One can experience it. Probably it would not have been possible 1.5 year back, and those are the kind of opportunities almost all of us in our industry are seeking, and they have been able to exploit it to the best possible that they could. So yeah, that's right. The crisis is always it gives an opportunity, and that's how it is.
100%. I think there's no playbook for a pandemic, but I do think every crisis is an opportunity to grow. Just
True.
opening out for the entire panel now. Any closing remarks that you want to touch upon?
um, I have a very, uh, you know, you, we are seeing there is a trend. Also, I think it's very important to touch upon the talent acquisition for small scale businesses like our small or medium. We do understand there is attrition. There is a lot of change happening within our industry. However, I think people, just as we see the trend in Europe, talent is shifting more towards startups. They are, because they see a huge potential for growth. Here, I think all of our panelists are going to agree with me that there is such huge potential for growth for young talent. They need to recognize and give themselves a chance to grow and work with interesting spaces, something that is new, because this is what smaller enterprises like ours we do. We experiment a lot. There is a huge potential for growth, and I think that is something that needs to be out there more, rather than having the safety of jobs is also there. We are not saying we're going down. I don't think we are. We are affected by the fluctuation of sectors. However, that's the point that I made in the beginning. Diversity of business allows us to have that kind of stability and give prospective growth possibilities to the young talent.
Very well said, Sunanda. And I think, as long as businesses will remain, communication people will remain, and so will the PR agencies. Thank you so much, all the panelists. This was a very, very interesting discussion. And I wish you all the very best as you run your businesses, meet with your clients' demands, and get the best talent to work for your teams. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Simran.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.